Hello, I'm Redempta Asifiwe, and I'm going to talk about what's your function in the goal of manage a business organization. I will describe the management functions and give some examples or tasks uh, related to those functions. I will also describe the management styles and also describe some of the strengths and weaknesses of a certain style, and then I will give a scenario in which using that style would be appropriate. Starting with management functions, we have planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. So planning is all about deciding what has to be done in a certain time in the future, and also establishing specific plans for what needs to be done, and of course that is done by the manager. So for instance, in this function of planning, a manager can plan for a meeting in order to let employees know about new decisions, and that is his task because he has to plan for things that need to be done in an organization. For organizing, it's all about establishing relationships among the employees and looking that all the resources needed to carry out different activities are available. And this is all done to be sure that the plans of an organization will be successful. For instance, in this function, a manager can organize a time to work on something, maybe a project, and make sure that all the materials needed for that are available. For staffing, a manager has to analyze jobs and see if there are any job vacancies, and he has to recruit new workers, and then after going through the whole process of recruiting, he has to hire the people who will be working in that organization, and then after getting those employees, he has to train them in order to make sure that they are able to carry out the activities they were hired for successfully. So I just said it. An example is that if in an organization a manager says that there needs to be maybe a secretary, and then he has to find ways to look for someone who is fit for that position, and afterwards he will hire that person, and then he will train that person because it's important to make sure that employees have the necessary skills for a certain position in an organization. For leading, it's a function that allows a manager to determine what needs to be done in different situations. And also in those different situations, a manager has to assign tasks to employees. So if a certain organization has a project to work on, uh, a manager has to identify what exactly needs to be done and then assign different tasks to employees to make sure that they all work together towards the success of that project. And controlling is where the manager has to evaluate outcomes of things that are being done in the organization and compare those outcomes with their future plans. And if he sees that the current outcomes will not allow the organization to reach the plans successfully, he has to make necessary adjustments so that they have to meet their goals. For instance, if they have a project that is due by the end of the month, and a manager sees that after 2 weeks of starting the project, the tasks are being done, but something is missing, and he thinks that at the end of the month, as they have that deadline, he thinks that the project will not be finished, so he has to make any adjustments that are needed so that they will reach the deadline. And now we'll talk about the management styles. And there are three management styles, which are directing, discussing, and delegating. With the directing style, a manager promotes learning of the employees through listening and through making them listen and having them follow directions. So he tells employees what they have to do and how they will do it and when they should be done with that task. So a strength of this style is that the manager has to ask employees whether they understood instructions. And a weakness of this style is that communication is one way from the manager to the employee, where the manager is telling the employee what to do. And the manager seems to be more involved than workers, because workers just get told what to do. So let's say that company X has a project of providing water to families residing in rural places, and the manager in this case, using the directing style, he has to oversee the whole process, like look at whatever needs to be done and then assign tasks to employees, and he has to tell them what exactly they have to do and when it should be done. So the task of employees is to just listen to the instructions and follow them. Using the discussing style, uh, this is more of interactions among employees, and also it involves critical thinking and discussions about problems and opportunities and solving any issues. So all this allows to come to a logical conclusion. A strength of this style of discussing is that communication involves both the manager and employees, and the style of this communication is two-way or multi-way, because it can involve a manager and an employee, or a manager and more employees, more than one employee. So a weakness of this style is that some employees may want to dominate the discussion. For instance, if they are discussing about something, some people who believe that they have great ideas might talk more, and they might dominate the discussion and not have others talk. So while working on a project, there might come an issue such as shortage of resources or quitting of one worker, and in that case, a manager has to bring all the employees together and let them discuss how to handle that situation. And last style is delegating, and this involves empowering uh, employees and assigning tasks to them either individually or in groups. A strength of this style is that employees are more engaged in working on their own, and so that this helps them to grow professionally. They are also given challenging tasks so that they can learn new skills. And in this case, a weakness might be that though it's rare, managers may seem as if they do not really do something great because employees are more involved in their working. So if, for instance, in an organization, there are different tasks to carry out, a manager has to make sure to assign different tasks to different people, and he has to let them work independently so that they grow both personally and professionally. So thank you for following this presentation.